All right. I think we're live. All right. Welcome to Friday. Damn it. Well, I'll turn my phone down here. Oh, screw it. All right. So today we're painting Gene Wilder from Young Frankenstein. And I hadn't, actually, I don't think I've actually seen the movie before, so I watched it last night and finished up today. And it's really pretty funny, actually. So as I put in the description, if everything worked according to plan on my software here, I'm going to show you how to make a black and white looking painting without using black or white. So I gotta stop my phone here. It's bugging me. Give me 1 second here. All right. So one of the ways we're going to do that is by using basically earth tones, and we're going to create our blacks with mixtures of some of the colors I have on my palette. So I'm going to go through the colors on the palette, and then we'll talk about how I'm going to do that. So this is Indigo Blue, which is a very dark and neutral blue. So it's not really got a really high chromatic value. What I mean by that is it's not really saturated blue like sky blue. So it's more of a grayish blue. Then we have burnt umber, which is a warm dark brown. We have raw umber, which is a cooler dark brown. I have Naples yellow light. Those work as sort of earth tones too, so they don't have a really high chromatic value similar to the blue selector. This isn't going to be like school bus yellow. It's going to tend to make a color sort of grayer and warmer and lighter if we're mixing it in with a darker color. Naples yellow light, which is just, I don't know, lighter version. I found that in my box of paints. I thought that might be handy. And so I don't have any actual true white on my palette. I have these pre-mixed grays from Gamblin that I like. Portland gray light, Portland gray medium, and Portland gray dark. Then I have a Paynes gray. So what we're going to do is quit messaging me. Jesus. What is making this sound? There we go. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh yeah, so we're going to use these colors to create this sort of value structure that's in the painting. And so we're going to use, if we want to make things darker, we're probably going to use this indigo blue. We're going to use a little bit of a trick in temperatures of these grays to make things look darker or lighter or brighter than they are. So instead of making something white to make it brighter, we're going to make it warm to make it brighter versus the cooler grays around it. So it'll have a similar effect without actually changing the value or the lightness and darkness of the painting. So we can get what looks like a high contrast painting, but the contrast is going to be amplified with the shifts in temperature in the tones. So I hope that makes sense. I know this is the way I think, and I realize that not everybody is maybe fluent in some of the verbal vernacular that I'm using. So if you have questions about any of that, put them in the comments. I'll try to get through to them. Hopefully this will, by example, make more sense as I work through it. So here we go, starting the Gene Wilder portrait, if you've stuck along this long. So let's mainly do like we've done before and just kind of cover the canvas. See if it works. Okay. I decided to not clip my board inside this thing because it fits too tight. Now I see why it's probably a good idea to use the clips, because now the paper's moving around. I don't like it. Well, learn something new every day you mess up. Every day you fail, you learn something new. So, go out there and try to make as many mistakes as we can. All right, so just cover that up. And then I'm going to basically figure out the main composition, how I want the faces, how I want to compose the head in the shot here. I kind of like something with his head and like his hair like blasting him. He's out in the middle of a thunderstorm, lightning storm, trying to bring his Frankenstein to life. So I'm going to just kind of start with a shape I think is going to work. And like this flying wedge of a head that he has here. But I've already made a critical mistake. No, not a critical mistake, but I want to, all right, I want his hair to be flying out here like that. So we'll just kind of scrub in these shapes right here. Like that. I'm going to be also I'm going to kind of draw this in as it makes sense. There's no real one way that you have to do this. It can be helpful at times to have some sort of a little bit of a methodology, but at the end of the day, that can, I think, get too monotonous and kind of start making the work a little more stiff, I guess would be a way to say it. Like, you want there to be some exploration and just sort of guessing involved, I guess. Guessing, I guess. All right. I think it makes the painting experience more fun to not always have an exact plan of what you're doing. It's good to have some sort of like usually would basically have a concept I'm going for. I'll do some sketches of those things, and then I'll go and get the references for them. So if I have an idea, like sometimes I won't even have that much of a sketch. I'll just have some basic ideas. Like I want to do a poker table scene. So what I'll do is I'll find some people I want to pose in that painting, get them set up in wardrobe, and then bring them to the studio and do a lighting setup and sort of see what happens. Like I'll have some ideas of what I want to do, but during that process, I find that people I'm working with to pose will do things that I wouldn't have asked them. So I don't necessarily try to have a really specific pose I set up and try to get them to pose in just the right way, unless there's something really specific I want to do. But generally what I do is I try to get people to act natural. And I find that's why it's good to work with actors as my models or performers or dancers. They know how to act natural. But maybe that's what acting is acting natural. I don't know. But where was I at? Yeah, so the idea is I like to exaggerate things so much that even poses that aren't really posed, I can turn them into something, And so what I'll end up with is a bunch of different references, and then I'll go through those and I'll find. This gets back to why I have several references I'm working from. Is I use multiple viewpoints of things so that I can pick little things off of one that I like versus the other, or maybe like if I'm doing a painting of a person, I like their hand position or then a jacket position or the way the drapery folds in one. As long and one reference, as long as all the lighting is consistent, you can kind of pick and pull all kinds of different aspects of your reference setups. Also, Um, that's kind of fun. I lost my train of thought. The other thing you can do, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is you can start your painting and just sort of do it out of your imagination as much as possible. You can do this with a sketch, I guess, as well, pre-planned. But I found that sometimes I'll just start the painting and then I'll go get the references for it later. One of the real tricks of using references for paintings is to not get too hemmed in by your reference, where you start copying paintings, or not paintings, but you start copying your reference and you become too married to it. So yeah, getting back to why I have all those references is so that I can see a few things. I can see how his face turns in space. If you have like a looping video, that could work for the same sort of purpose. Um, and it keeps me from copying any, like just trying to copy the photograph. I'm wanting to pick up the essence of what's going on, and being able to have multiple references of his mouth and what he's saying, and then the lighting just turns into something a little more unique usually than just having copying the reference from one photograph. It's more complicated to do it this way too. When I did a Sam Elliott painting a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, and the references I had, his facial expression changes so quickly and so frequently that I was putting the video together of all the sessions that I did of the painting for a time lapse I was going to release it, and I noticed that I changed the expression of his face several times, from more serious to more lighthearted. As I was making the painting, part of getting the portrait's likeness down is it's not just copying surface features. It's sort of got to, just jump out as that's exactly who it is. So there's no question about it. And so that the way I describe that is it's got to feel like them, like just instantly. That's the goal. And so I kept on reworking it until I got the way that it felt right to me, and that was sort of the, as his character in that scene is a more of a lighthearted uh, character. It wasn't serious, or it wasn't dramatically serious. Trying to decide, I might want to like make his mouth a little. I don't know, just a couple. I'm not sure how I want to do this yet, so I'm gonna just kind of guess at it here, maybe. I like I like these goggles. I think just this is gonna be fun. Okay, so what I'm gonna do to make these darker darks is I'm using this indigo blue and this burnt umber, and so I'm mixing this really warm dark tone with this really cool dark tone, and it becomes uh, sort of that reddish and that bluish work to create a neutral tone that's not got a temperature so much. It's not really cold. It's not really hot. So it tends to make a nice blackish color, or close to black. So we don't need something that dead in there. So that's just indigo blue mixed with burnt umber, and you can see right there that it's much darker right there. And it looks darker than it really is because it's compared to some of these warmer tones. And so that's what I'm going to use to create that darkest darkest colors and tones. So we know that this goggle is the darkest areas. And so his hair over here probably isn't even as dark as a lot of this stuff right here. And then what we can do is to go in and so I want to paint some background around here, and I want to make it dark as his character is lighter than the backgrounds, it looks like from what I'm looking at. So he's going to be kind of in the fill light and then a really strong backlight that's going to cause his hair to glow. And so I'm going to create a background tone, and I'm going to use this mixture with some Portland gray medium, which is a kind of a medium gray. Now, if you want to use black and white, you can do that, but I think this is kind of a fun exercise to create. We're going to keep this on a cool tone, so I'm going to use more of this. It's going to be more bluish, and if I want to knock down that blue, I can bring in some of this. I'm going to bring in this raw umber, and that, even though it's cooler than this, it's like warmer. So this is on the pushing towards the green side of brown, which is still warmer than blue. So if you wanted to arrange these by temperature, it would become warmer, less warm, and cooler. So it'd be, that would be the structure of the temperature. So if I want to gray this down, but not really neutralize it as much, I might bring something which has this more of a greenish tone, which is this raw umber. Anyway, then we can go in here and block that area in, and it looks kind of too cool still, but I'm gonna go ahead and just lay this tone in, and it looks like, if we think about a sky tends to be darker and cooler towards the top and warmer and lighter towards the bottom of the closer to the horizon. I'm going to darken this up, and I'm going to use this raw umber. I'm going to change the temperature to make it look like it's getting darker. So as you can see, that warms that up and it makes it look a little darker. I hope that's kind of coming across on the screen. I can't really see what's going on. I'll figure out how to set that up so I can see what's going on someday. So I'm going to continue to just lay in this background. I'm using that to define the shape of the head. There we go. It's kind of cool. All right, so I'm going to lighten it up some more. Here, I might see. I want to mix some of this raw umber or burnt umber with this gray, straight with this gray. So this will create a sort of a little bit lighter and warmer tone of this color. I think that will look good down here. So instead of really shifting a lot of the value structure, it's sort of the same sort of, relatively light grays and stuff, but the shift in temperature makes it look can add a little punch to it. All right. All right, so I'm going to lighten up this. So I'm going to sort of block in tones in his hair, I think. I'm going to start by lightening that up. I'm just going to take this color and mix it in. It'll lighten up a little bit. And I'm going to keep all the tones on here a little. I might go on the cool side. Let's see how that works. And then we can start using this Naples yellow to start warming up, and as we lighten up some of these tones around where the edge of his hair is over here. that. With this part, we can just get really painterly and have fun with it. And then when I want a lighter tone over here, I'm going to use, this thing's moving around on me. I'll figure out how to. There's a problem every week. My gloves can't get a hold of this. There we go. All right. There we go. And sometimes it might take a little bit of just playing with it to see what temperature kind of looks correct. It'll feel right or it won't, some of it. All right. Just start to look kind of cool. And now I'm going to come and get some of this, just kind of work my way around his entire shape of his entire face. It's going to look like one of those Loomta guys. All right, I'm gonna block in some of this around his face. I'm gonna start out with a. Well, I'm just gonna dive into it. I think I'm a warmer tone. Let's see what works here. Kind of just want to get the shaping in there. I'll adjust the temperatures if they need to be adjusted. I think if I'm starting to find like being over analytical lately, like trying to really be too deliberate, and there's times that can work, but I think it was causing the sometimes it causes you to get it causes the work to kind of like be flat somehow, like emotionally flat. Like sometimes it's something as simple as like I get that way when I'm sitting down to work, and I twisted my ankle last week, and so I was sitting down a lot this week to work, and I would spend an unusual amount of time on painting, and every time I would step back from it after I would get up or something, it didn't look right. It looked okay, kind of okay up close, but when I stepped back, it looked completely like messed up. And it kind of dawned on me, I was like, oh yeah, that's why I stand up a lot when I work, is because it allows you to step away from it enough to then come back and look. You can start seeing it as a whole instead of getting caught up in all these um, smaller detail pattern, smaller patterns. Like, and I do a lot of sitting when I work, but I've realized that most of the sitting I do is when I get everything kind of locked in, and then it's just something tedious that I have to do on a piece. Like it might be like some sort of pattern, or I have to um, figure out how to do something mechanical in a piece. So as I'm painting this, I'm kind of I draw as the painting is a way of drawing. So I'm not filling in like drawing an area and then filling it in. I'm drawing it in with shaping. And there's a gesture to faces, especially something that's so expressive like this particular um, this particular portrait. And as I work with this, I know I'm not really telling like what exactly, what color and temperature and all this stuff, because some of it really requires me to just to do it. If I might be better to describe it after the fact what I'm doing. So I'm just using my intuition to plow through this and get all these tones kind of drawn in there in what appears to be the correct positions. And it gets this really is a skill that takes a lot of drawing, and it's something that I need to actually work on more as my sort of deliberate practice is drawing, because it seems like whenever I do a lot more drawing, the paintings really fall together much quicker. Um, and when I do drawings, I'm typically not like, but I don't mean just like sitting around and um, well, yes, it means whatever it means. It can be just imaginary drawing. What I'm talking about is like drawing from life, like it's been kind of put on hold because of COVID, but you know, you can go to coffee shops or when you're every year at the restaurants, or like I used to go hang out with a neighbor of mine, and we would go around downtown and bring Sharpies with us and a sketchbook, and then try to fill the entire sketchbook in an evening of walking around and drawing buildings or just whatever. And so we did what it does. That did is it made it so that you're not over analyzing subject matters. You're just picking stuff and drawing as you're trying to fill up a sketchbook. And that but you don't want to just draw anything that's boring. So you're constantly looking for something that's interesting, which really forces you to start looking for interesting things. And see if that's right. And then when you start looking for things like that, you start seeing you find them. And but the drawing, the constant drawing really turned into some really nice paintings. I ended up not making paintings based on those drawings, but um, it gave me ideas that I wouldn't have otherwise had, and that was just from walking around in the neighborhood you live in or close to it, and drawing pictures of things that you normally don't pay attention to. And I ended up drawing painting or drawings of buildings that the buildings started taking on their own sort of life. They became characters, and a lot of that's what turned into the Rust, Dust, and Lust series of paintings that I did. And I've kind of been itching to go back and do a similar approach of. I think I need to just move on here. I'm starting to get too. It was going good, and then I started to get, I think, too careful. So I'm gonna keep moving along here. There we go. I caught myself trying to be careful. That's what happened. And then when that happens, it means I'm It usually means like I think I'm onto something, and the second I think I'm onto something and I step back and I'm like, that doesn't look right, and then I just start trying to do half measures to take care of it. That's when I know I need to switch gears, go back at it a little more energy. All right, let's. So one of the things I like to do is, if you've seen a few of these, is um, work at least in the first hour to get the entire canvas covered with something. All right, we're getting maybe close. I think that's not going to be a problem. Getting the entire thing, we're almost there. So one of the things that you can use to try to decide what the temperature should be is to figure out or understand what's going on with the light, where the light's coming from, and what's creating the light. So we can see there's a light hitting his face that's causing these goggles to cause a cast shadow onto his head, and then there's another light behind his hair. So what we might do is make sure that all the light that's causing this direct fill light, this brighter light, is to be a warmer tone. And then we're going to take this and make it into a cooler tone in the background. Let's see if I can do that. I think I'm going to change a couple of things with the way this is working. Just need to change that a little bit, I think. So again, this is that indigo blue, and it tends to look really dark even by itself because it's so cold. And since it's the coldest tone on the surface of the painting, everything else is warm. It tends to jump out at us. So if we want things to pop, we'll use that tone right there. All right, I'm going to continue on with this, and I'm going to use this warmer tone to continue to get God he's got a shirt on over here, whatever that is. And I'm going to quickly just kind of fill this in. Not a lot of detail right there. No reason for it. I'm going to use a warmer tone for that. Just a little bit of a fill. Okay. Light over here of some sort. All right. So we want to use I'll show you if this will work. All right. So this is going to push this over to green, actually, a greener color. So I'm using this Naples yellow and this indigo blue. So this might take it away from being the black and white that we want it. But I'll show you a little trick here in a second. We can use this undertone. I'm going to just kind of fill in this in an approximately the right way and with hair-like brush strokes. I'm going to come back around this side of his face with the same color. Might lighten it up a little bit. So one of the other benefits of using this limited palette is it just gives you a lot less decisions to make about the colors of things. So you take away a lot of the parameters. One second. Oop, there we go. A lot of the variables in this experiment are just whittled down to like decisions about temperature. So this could be a good way if you want to work on understanding how to use temperature in your colors to better effect. This is a fun exercise for that, I think. Okay, so now I'm gonna get some different rags here. We can contrast that and make it, see if I can make this sort of glow a little bit. See what I can do here. First, I'm gonna kind of fill in some more of this over here just so that it's covered. It's not the brush that's gonna work for that, it's too soft. All right. It's an indication of his eye. And I'm still just having some fun with knocking this in a little bit. Okay, back to his hair. Now what you can do is you can take just a straight up gray, go into that, and it'll look pretty nice. Actually, I'm going to take this warmer, just start hitting it with this warmer tone up here. That'll really make it glow a little bit. And I find that if you can put grays into brighter tone and into more saturated tones, they tend to look a little more vibrant. They really start to sing pretty nice. So this is going with a very much bigger shift in temperature. Just causing that, it should cause that to start lightening up pretty nice. So this might be too bright. I might need to actually make that a little darker. The reason being is that the contrast is already high over here, so that bright tone's going to look too bright. Everything is connected. um, and it's one of the things that as you start to progress in your image making or paint, especially painting, I think, is the more you can see that everything is connected to everything else in some way or another, or and then you don't necessarily start seeing that, but you start realizing that, like, for example, the more you work one color in one part of the painting into all the colors of the painting, somehow the more starts to work and jump off the page, and the reason is because there's relationships between everything on the canvas. So basically, this is just a bunch of organized brushstrokes that all work together to make an image. So that's the way the colors work. That's the way the composition works. It's all these movements that work together to make it work. So the more you start thinking of things as isolated events in the painting, the more sort of disconnected it feels. Like it'll look like things about it look right, look like yeah, it looks kind of like what it's supposed to look like, but it doesn't have that sort of like what I would say obviousness about it. Like a image is so apparent and obvious that it doesn't need to be explained, or I'm not qualified somehow. Like that generally comes with pieces that are constructed as, as the whole thing all at once. Like, so when I'm starting this painting, I'm starting with the whole composition, and then everything has to fit within that framework. So you it either fits and thereby like naturally just kind of fits into place, or you have to beat it into submission somehow. But sometimes you're wrong, and if you beat a painting into submission, it looks like it was a painting that was just forced into it. So um, the way I look at my work, and I'm trying to be self-critical about what I'm doing, is that uh, the if I merely have the question of does it look right, that's all I need to know. Like, that being said, sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about, so I step away from my own work and come back at it with fresh eyes. So sometimes you can not have the right perspective because you're too involved with it at the time. So if you need to step back from it, come back at it with some fresh eyes. That's always helpful. All right, um, let's bring this, see what this color does up for this sort of. I know I like to say don't get caught up in details, but I can't help it. It's fun. That's way hot. So you can see all I did was I just took that yellowish color, and that's really bright right there. Because everything around it is dark and cool. So I'll just tap that down, bring it down a notch. Kind of bring the rim of this glasses like so. I'm going to let's try this gray over here, see what that does. That almost works better. Yep, I should have probably. Look, how's that look? Let's get this under here. I hate round things in paintings. Because either they look round or they don't. You know, it's really hard to stylize a circle. Here we go. All right. Things coming along. All right, I think. Oops. Not light enough. We can come in here and get some more of these. More of this light. Just play around with some really warm. All right. I think that kind of feels pretty good. It's like, should maybe just say black and white-ish painting. Yeah, I think, get what I mean? Cool. And then we work around the paint so we can take this cooler tone into this sort of reflected area, this fill light on the side of his temple. And the more you work all of these colors throughout the painting, it'll end up having the monochromatic feel of black and white without being black or white. And that's what I was going after, I think. So let's see. All right, we have about 10 more minutes. I'll keep plugging along on this. And we're nailing in this drawing, so to speak. Mostly, painting is mostly drawing, I think. There's his ears over here. All right, I'm gonna think, work on getting some of these tones a little lighter, just shaping wise. This is kind of fun painting. Yay. And then it's sort of down to like making the brushwork fun and cool, like whatever that means to you. It might hit a little bit of some light up here just so it pops out. Well, that doesn't look right there. All right. Mixing up a warm tone right here. So we can use that to start really bringing in the brighter parts in this part of his face. So I'm changing the temperature on that, warming it up, lightening it up a little bit, mostly warming it up, and that tends to make it look like it's in light a little bit more. Here we go. Maybe punch that up right there a little bit. Mix some of this tone on the top of this. Might be getting a little bit of light from both front and the back. All right. Well, I think we're about there for today. If you guys are watching on YouTube, please do not subscribe. Don't ring the bell for notifications. Let this just be our little secret. Nobody has to know. Just continue to refine the composition a little bit. I don't want that to stay on there. All right. I will stop for today. Appreciate y'all. I'll see you next week.